what we're doing through music and really understanding what it is that we're providing. When I'm doing a ceremony in Arlington Cemetery, thinking about the fact that I'm playing these hymns for people who lost a loved one, and when they hear America the Beautiful and the flags being folded, it's something that can't be done through a recording, and certainly not through a silence.
Hello, welcome to the Flute 360 podcast, where we incorporate a panoramic view of flute-related topics. I am your host, Heidi K. Begay, and this is episode 116, Military Flutists with Staff Sergeant Sonia Dell'Omo. The Flute 360 podcast and JK Media Productions are teaming up to help you with your student and professional needs. I, Heidi, offer consultation work to both music students and professionals alike. If you are a student who needs help studying for graduate pre- and post-music exams, editing a research paper, interested in flute lessons, or needs help with job applications, I am here for you. Also, I have been currently working with ministries, music publication companies, and other music professionals to help them with their online projects. Whether you need creative or social media help, I would be thrilled to work with you. My husband, Eric, has been an audio and video engineer for over 10 years and owns the JK Media Productions company. If you are someone who takes or gives music lessons via the web and need help with equipment and or setup, feel free to reach out to Eric. Lastly, he is well skilled with audio and video edits for your next creative project. Please contact us today at HeidiKBegay.com and jkproductions.media so we can get started working towards your professional goals. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Hi, Sonia.
Hey, Heidi. It's good to hear from you.
Same here. So how have you been doing?
Oh, we've been doing well. Life has obviously changed, and, we're all doing our best to kind of come up with new routines and, figure out what each day is going to be like is exciting, but, has its own challenges.
Yeah, definitely. Going with the waves, huh? Rolling with the punches.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, each day is just so different. And, the band has us doing a number of things and the weather changes. So really, our plans, whatever we want to do in the yard or, plans we think we might have, it just depends on, kind of what the day's like.
Yeah. So you've been out east for a while.
Yes. I left the Dallas-Fort Worth area in late October of 2013. And that's when I shipped off to basic training. And then after that was over, I moved to the DC area late January of 2014 and have been here ever since.
Wow. So we were talking before the official interview, and we were saying that we have not spoke for about 7 years now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It seems like a long time ago, but, it was just like yesterday, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. So for the listeners who may not know, Sonia and I actually got to meet and get to know each other through the Texas Flute Society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right. After I graduated from North Texas, it was, the Texas Flute Society is an amazing organization. It's very active. We need a lot of people on deck to help with all the events that go on. And so I was happy to join. And, it was a great way to meet people. I mean, we met through that. And I met a ton of people that I hadn't met yet that was outside of the UNT community, which was really nice. So I'm glad to have been a part of that.
Yeah, it is a great organization and filled with a lot of great people who are really dedicated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we learned so much from the folks that have been there, like Larry Bailey, Ellen. I mean, it's amazing how those folks have stuck with the organization for so long. And, that mixed in with all of the new folks that come in, it's a great group of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I learned a lot during that time, too.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a little background on who you are and your musical background. Could you share more details with us?
Sure. I'm from a small town in New Mexico, and I started flute lessons relatively late. I mean, I moved to Dallas where, people start flute lessons right away in the 6th grade, but that wasn't the case for me because I was in a small town and there was a girl there that played flute in my band that she drove an hour to her private lessons. And I was curious about that when I got to high school. And I, inquired about it and I said, I think I want to start flute lessons. I hadn't really considered a career in music just because, I hadn't really thought about it in that way. But once I started flute lessons, I would drive an hour. And my flute teacher in high school, Katie Tomasek, was such an influential part in the start of my flute career. She pointed out all of the areas that I needed to work on. And it was a real eye opener because, here I was, I liked music. I was, relatively good at it. I made all of the all region, blah, blah, blah bands and all of that. But I never really focused on, all the things you need to focus on that a flute teacher would help you with. Mm-hmm. So she helped me with all that. And I worked really hard during those 2 or 3 years to try and play catch up, basically. And so that encouraged me. I made a decision, my late junior year, early in my senior year, to go into music education. And so I went to New Mexico State University to major in music education. And I had this spark in me that just wanted to teach music. I enjoyed the marching band aspects. I enjoyed playing, and I just wanted to kind of explore that. So I finished that degree and it was a great experience. I mean, I got a lot from there. I learned from some great educators and kind of opened my eyes to a whole new situation that I didn't really see for myself. And then after that, I was not really ready to go into teaching yet. I wanted to explore flute a little more and see what my options were. And I just loved playing. I loved practicing. And so I went to the University of North Texas to major in flute performance. And I studied with Terry Sundberg there for 2 years. And that was another kick in the butt. I was then exposed to the things that I needed to work on. And it was a pretty intense 2 years. I mean, it was very humbling. And I was put into a much larger school, a much larger music school. Mm-hmm. I went from a studio of, like 20 people, most music education majors, to a school of, 1,000, and there were probably 100 music majors, I think, and that's combined with flute performance and music education. Mm-hmm. So it was a completely different environment, and I'm so thankful. I mean, I spent my 4 years at New Mexico State listening to North Texas recordings, and to be a part of that wind symphony after listening to them, early on was just very humbling. I walked in to my first rehearsal and I was absolutely terrified. I said, Oh God, we didn't get music ahead of time. And it was my first week of classes and I walk in and I don't feel like I belong there. It's very intimidating. And I sit down and I'm like, okay, I have to read this perfectly or else, I don't know. I wasn't sure what I was feeling at that time. I just remember being scared. But actually, it was so nice. Professor Corporon was really great, and he taught me a lot in my 2 years there. And it was a great experience to be a part of all the ensembles at North Texas. I did the new music program, and that was also something very new to me. So 2 years, it felt like a very short time, but I got so much done in those 2 years. So then after I was done, I started doing what a lot of people do. I wanted to keep playing. I wasn't ready to pursue a DMA. I, didn't really think that was in my future. I was kind of done with school at that time, like mentally. I was tired of, reading and writing papers and all that. I just really felt like I needed a break. So I took auditions and I taught a full studio of about 50 to 60 students. And it was pretty exciting because I said, oh, well, now I can just dedicate all of my time to this rather than just my free time, that I had. So I was able to have a bigger studio and I was involved in some pretty great schools there in Dallas. And I would take auditions, but it was really hard because I was so busy with teaching and playing and freelancing. I mean, I know that there would be times where I would have a lesson that starts at 7 a.m. in the morning, which I'm not a morning person. And I'm certainly not a morning person that plays my flute at 7 o'clock in the morning. So that was hard, but that was the only way to squeeze everyone in,
Yeah.
You'd teach all day, you'd go from school to school, and then I would have rehearsals at night and from 7:30 to 10, and it was absolutely exhausting. It was rewarding, but exhausting. And I loved it, but then I was also very tired. So it was a lot. And trying to prepare for audition was, I just had to be careful about how I prepared. I had to be efficient and I had to use every minute that was available to me. So anyway, that was pretty much what I did until I got this opportunity to move to DC. And that was kind of my journey. And now it's a whole different life.
Very well said. I just love hearing that journey. And the things that I'm pulling from it are just the people that really impacted you. Like, I love hearing you sparkle and just say, oh, this professor or that professor. And I just get a sense of a lot of gratitude. I know you're that kind of teacher for your current students. And it's good to be inspired by colleagues like that and to hear your journey. So that way, I don't know, just to keep that inspiration and motivation in all of us going.
Yeah, definitely. Each person also, you don't even know it yet. At the time, you're just trying to learn, and whatever distractions you have as a student, you don't even realize how much of an impact that certain people have, musically or not. And so it's nice to kind of talk about it and to remember and to, give credit where it's due and also thank them, as well. You have Teacher Appreciation Week and all that. And, it's just kind of nice to let them know, because definitely, even if I just had one lesson, like one masterclass with a teacher, I still keep so many of those experiences in my playing and in my mind.
And when you were talking about your 2 years with Terry Sundberg and how it was very humbling, because, she produces some really strong and fine players. Her studio is exceptional. And hearing you talk about, a one-time masterclass here or there, I had one lesson with Terry Sundberg years ago. And man, those gold nuggets in that 1 hour lesson will stay with me forever. I was just like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's really cool. And the other thing I really like hearing is just, you keeping it real for the current graduates out there who are having to juggle, between coursework and figuring out, what their career path is. It doesn't get easier.
No. That's right.
But you said something that was really positive. It is very rewarding. I relate a lot to your story, just juggling the 60 student studio and trying to do auditions. It is tiring. It is not for the, what's the saying? The weak at heart. But yes, thank you. Yeah. And you're right. You have to be so intentional with every minute, because if you're not, you have a 1 hour break, let's say, and you wolf down some lunch, and then you've got now 20 minutes to practice. Well, guess what? In 20 minutes, you'll have student number 50.
Yep. Who didn't practice.
So those 20 minutes are so valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. The older I get, the more I'm just like, can someone please just slow down the clock?
Yeah, exactly. Or just pause. I just need a break.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. But I think what you definitely said so well, and what we're trying to say is keep at it. It will pay off. Even if it's not a career path that you may not have anticipated in the beginning, something will unfold and it will be beautiful and rewarding. So then specifically then, as you're taking these auditions, what inspired you to specifically take the audition through the U.S. Army Band?
Well, that's a good question. I am from a military family. My dad was in the Air Force for 20 plus years, and I never in a million years thought that I would join the military because I was what they call a military brat. We moved around a ton, especially when I was younger. When I was in the 5th grade, that's when we moved to New Mexico and we stayed put. Those early years were pretty tough. And seeing my dad, in his Air Force uniform, I was like, that's definitely not for me. But when I graduated, I was pretty focused on orchestra auditions and taking those exclusively. And the only one that I would ever consider, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, was taking the Marine Band audition because number one, they don't have to go to any kind of basic training or anything. So once you get the job, I think you go straight there. You might have to do like a week-long, I'm not really sure. So I'm pretty sure you just go straight there. So that was the only one that I had considered taking. And I think in 2012 was when they finally had an opening and it was for piccolo. And I was like, okay, here's my chance. This is the one that I'm going to do and it's open and I'm going to try my best to get it. And so I actually decided to take, I think it was 2, maybe 3 weeks off of teaching lessons. And it was a big deal for me because, obviously I didn't have income coming in, but I really felt like, okay, this is my chance and I really want a piccolo job. So I needed to get serious about it. And obviously 3 weeks isn't enough time to fully dedicate to practice, but I really wanted to focus for those 3 weeks. So I prepped and I had a pretty rigid time a schedule where I would, take breaks and record myself and do all the things that you're supposed to do. And, I come up and 2 of my dad's sisters actually live in the area, 2 aunts that I hadn't really seen a whole lot in the last several years. Well, I have now that I'm living here, but before then I hadn't really seen them in a long time. And so I got to reconnect with them and I took the Marine Band audition and I didn't win, but I was a finalist and it kind of put a lot of things into perspective. I thought to myself like, oh my gosh, well, I really like it here. DC is so great. And I mean, they showed me around DC and I just fell in love with the area. It was beautiful. And I just really, all these things started to come to mind, like, maybe I could live here, or maybe basic training isn't so bad. And, maybe I should really consider it because it's almost like I got a taste of it, and then so basic training didn't seem such a high price to pay, to join one of these bands. And so that was kind of stuck in my head as I left that trip. And then I came back and the next year, in 2013, a friend of mine who was in the band, who I went to North Texas with, sent me a message and said, hey, there's an opening for the Army band coming up. There's an audition. You should really consider it. And I said, oh, God. And so, I was put to the test like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. This is too real. Like, I'm not ready. And so, but you know what? I said, I'd just gotten back a couple months before that from DC. And I just said, I'm not committing anything by taking this audition. So I'm going to try for it and see what happens. And I was pretty scared though, just because of everything the unknown is very scary. Basic training sounds very scary.
Yeah.
So then I took the audition and actually I was one of 3 finalists. And at the end of it, I was brought in by the colonel at that time. And he told me, he said, if we had 2 spots to fill, we'd offer one to you. But unfortunately, right now we don't. And so I was considered the runner-up for that audition. Okay. And so, I actually took a big breath of fresh air because I said, oh, thank God I don't have to go to basic training. This is all okay. I was in a pretty serious relationship at that time too. And I was like, okay, this is good for everybody. It's okay. This is like a sign that wasn't meant to be. And so I moved on. The whole summer happened and life went on. And then in August of 2013, I got a call from the Army band and they said, there's somebody that recently put in for retirement. So she's leaving and we would like to offer you her position. And so I said, okay, like, Do I have to say yes right now? I was so scared at that time. It was like a mix of excitement and also pure fear of like what my future was going to look like. And I, of course, called back, a couple of days later after talking about it with my family and my boyfriend at the time. I said, okay, I think this is going to be a good thing. This is a good change and this is a great opportunity. There's absolutely no way that I should turn this down. It would be silly. But it was also scary because it was something very unfamiliar. Like this was to join the Army band here in DC, but it was the ceremonial unit. And I wasn't really sure how that looked like at all. The concert band is a different element. Even though we're all one unit, they are primarily assigned to doing concerts and different things. And our primary mission is to do the ceremonies at Arlington Cemetery, which seemed a little strange to me because I said, is that all I do? I don't really know what a life like that looks like. So thankfully, I had somebody to call in the band and we kind of talked through it. And he was very helpful in helping me kind of get an idea of what I was signing up for. And, I said, this is going to be a great thing. I'm excited. It's a great opportunity and I should really take it. So I got a lot of insight into what basic training was like. I tried not to scare myself too much, but I got a lot of great advice. And I also got a lot of reassurance that they were like, okay, listen, Sonia, if I could get through it, you can get through it and you'll be fine. And so I said, okay. And that stayed with me, through the whole process. It's a mental challenge for sure. And I think that if you kind of go in with an open mind and not take anything personally and just kind of remember where you are and what the Army's intent is when they put people through basic training, I think it puts a lot of it into perspective, and it's a basic combat training and that's what it stands for. And really it's just to kind of help kids that are 18 years old, right out of high school, that didn't really have any other options that are going to join the military. I was 26 and I was the oldest female.
Okay.
And most females were between 18 and 22. And I think there was an older male in my platoon who was like maybe 33, but his story was very unique compared to everybody else's. So anyway, I could go on and on about basic training, but I think the biggest takeaway for me is, just remember where you are. And this is not part of what we're going to be doing, and I think that was a big kind of like, okay, just put it in perspective. It's 3 months out of your life. And then once it's over, so
right.
That was helpful.
Yeah. Just the fact that there's a means to an end, it's 3 months. There is an end date.
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
This cannot go on forever.
I know. Yeah. Right. I was going to say it all felt like a bad dream at the end, and my friend told me, my dear friend Sam Ross told me that it's all going to feel like a dream. And it was just, that kept with me. And now I know exactly what he meant by that because it almost didn't even seem real. Like you wake up from a dream and you're like, wait, what happened? Like you can't even remember it,
Weird.
So, yeah.
So a little surreal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because not like real life. You go there and you're completely isolated. Like I have no idea what it's like right now for the people that are in during this time, the strangeness of what life is like. Like, I don't know if they have any idea because they're completely isolated. And it's really interesting.
Yeah.
To hear stories.
So when you say isolated, I'm glad you brought that up because coming into today's discussion, I was thinking, I wonder if she felt lonely during that time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was the oldest person. I was definitely the only one with 2 degrees. I think because if you join the Army and you have a college degree, so even if you have a bachelor's degree or more, you join as an E4, which is a specialist rank. And so I think I was maybe one of 3 or 4 people that was a specialist in my platoon. So, the perspective that I had was very different than theirs. And so, I felt very alone because I said to myself, like, okay, I just need to focus on what I'm doing. And I don't know if it was the right thing or not, but it helped me kind of get through it. But yeah, I mean, I missed my friends. I missed my family. I mean, I would get letters and I would absolutely start crying because I missed them. And just, I mean, reading their letters helped me to hear their voice. And that was like, and when I would break down, or when I got that one phone call after like a month of being there, I would absolutely break down just at the sound of their voice, which was pretty crazy for me. I'd never experienced anything like that. But, you know, you really, in today's age, we have access to everything, everyone, all the time. And to completely be taken out of that is pretty humbling.
Yeah. And you are a tough cookie, but tough cookies are humans too.
True.
But no, I'm just so thankful, you know, just hearing your story. And it's so weird for me because for some reason, I don't know how this happens, my stars always align and I hear what I need to hear in my life at that given moment. But that is such an inspiration because I think students need to hear that in the sense that you have to sacrifice to get ahead. And some things will come easy and some things won't. But man, it pays off, even if it's not what you had expected.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. And, you know, stepping out of your comfort zone, I think, you know, is such an important part of growing, you know, and I think that this was the ultimate step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even music related. I had to go into a completely foreign area. And, you know, I learned how to shoot a weapon, which was exciting for me because actually I was so scared of guns and all that. And here I am having to carry around an M4 like all the time, you know. It was scary, but it was also like when they teach you how to shoot an M4, they use the word fundamentals all the time. And I'm like, okay, I know what that means. You know, I know how to go through my fundamentals. So you talk about, you know, breathing, you talk about this, you talk about where to point it, you talk about your hand position. I mean, it's all like, it was almost exciting to hear those kind of terms being used because I said, okay, I can do this. And meanwhile, I'm like shooting live rounds out of a rifle. And I'm like, okay, it's not quite the same, but you know, it was also really exciting. So, you know, there were parts that were good. And I think, you know, those stick with me.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious then, was the loneliness probably one of the, I don't know, of course it's a downside, but was that one of the most challenging aspects of basic training?
The loneliness didn't come until I realized I missed my family. But I was so distracted. I mean, they keep you busy the entire time and they're like yelling in your face pretty much the entire time that I was really distracted by what was going on. I think the most challenging part was just the day-to-day grind and the fact that I was so exhausted. And that's what they're really training you for. They're training you to do these really hard tasks being absolutely exhausted, you know, because when these soldiers go out into combat zones, I mean, they might get little to no sleep and they have to be absolutely alert. And so part of the training is to completely exhaust you. I mean, you go to bed, quote, at 9, but actually, you know, you have to get up in the middle of the night and do these security checks. And, you know, they'd wake you up or they'd just randomly wake you up at 1 o'clock in the morning to like punish you for somebody doing something crazy. And so everybody has to get out of their bed and do push-ups. I mean, it's just constant. And then you have to get up at 4:30, you know, to go do some physical training and to eat breakfast. And it just all starts over again. And you're absolutely exhausted. And so I think the hardest part for me was just not being able to sleep and waking up every day. You know, at 4:30, I am not a morning person. And so it was hard. It was hard to do all of that, you know, really tired. So yeah, that was the hardest part. And I think maybe another thing that I was thinking of would but just be my general frustration in the beginning, because I would see so much, like as an educator, it was crazy for me. I had to turn this off, but I would see so many flaws in how, like, okay, if you're trying to teach a concept to these soldiers, instead of like yelling in their face and like doing all these crazy things, which, is the culture and that's what they're there to do. But in my mind, I'm like, well, if you just do it this way, it would probably be more effective and people probably wouldn't be so scared and, whatever. But like, the purpose of it is to mentally absolutely break you, and so that you're formed into an army soldier that can handle these kind of hard situations. It's crazy. But of course, I didn't realize that at the time. So my frustration level was very high on certain parts of the training, but I just learned to get over that because, I didn't know any better.
I love how you said that you had to turn off the teacher in you.
Yeah.
That's great. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
That's insane. So now that you're out of basic training, what does your schedule look like?
Well, my schedule before COVID-19 was very different day to day. I think on a regular day, I would be assigned either the morning full honor funerals or the afternoon full honor funerals. So there are 4 that happen 5 days a week that the Army participates in. So there's one at 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. We're assigned 2 a day basically to just help our bodies recover, because doing 4 a day would absolutely be, just on your body. It's really tough. You're out there standing in the 100-degree weather in your full wool uniform, and you have to play your instrument and you have to stand for who knows how long sometimes. And it's really hard on your body. So generally we're assigned either the first 2 in the morning or the 2 in the afternoon. And I know my schedule usually about 3 to 4 days ahead of time. And so with a confirmation the day before. And so changes happen all the time in military ceremonies. And so you just kind of have to be flexible. I generally know that my schedule is going to be between 8 and 4 every day. So I can mentally prepare for that. Other than that, if I'm not assigned to ceremony or full honors, which is a ceremony in Arlington Cemetery, we do different ceremonies to welcome in foreign dignitaries, either at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier or at the Pentagon or at the White House. They'll send a band out to play the national anthem of that country. And it's basically a way to, offer our welcome in a way that can make them feel welcomed into our country and our space, and so it provides, basically, we always say that, we do diplomacy through music. And so whenever people come in from all over the world, they can hear their music. Our strings will play music at a dinner that they're at, or, the ceremonial band will play their national anthem. It provides kind of like a handshake to them. So we also do those. And there are a number of other things that come in that the senior leadership of the Army needs us for. So that's mostly what I do in the ceremonial band. Our blues, which is our jazz band, will be sent out for different kinds of missions. Our singers will sing the national anthem and different tunes all over the area. And so we have all these elements. We've got strings, we've got voices, we've got a men's chorus that sings at the White House. We've got a concert band, and a ton of other little groups. We've got harp. So, violin and harp will play at the home of like the vice president. And provide music there. So everybody's everywhere. And there's a lot of jobs here that keep us pretty busy every day. And so if I'm not doing a ceremony or a concert, then, I typically spend time practicing or exercising and also taking care of different Army related things. Like we have to make sure that, we are properly trained in general Army things, like we are trained in sexual harassment. They go over equal opportunity issues. And so they make sure that we're up to date in all of that as well. So that's pretty much my typical week.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love how you said about the handshake, welcoming other nations to the U.S. And what better way to do that than through music?
Exactly. And that's what we do, and I think that each branch has a band here. So the Marine band's here, Air Force and Navy. And so, we take care of majority of what the Army needs. And then the Navy, if they have a counterpart that comes in to greet the Navy general, it'll be the Navy band that plays. You know, at Arlington Cemetery, all branches are buried there. And so whatever service that veteran was, you know, that's the band that handles that ceremony. So, and the Army is the biggest branch in the United States. So we've got a lot of ceremonies to do. And so that's why we have a band of 260 people here, you know, because there's a lot to do for everyone.
Wow. So if somebody is listening to this and just saying, oh my goodness, I just love the schedule that she's describing, I love the career, what advice would you give him or her if they are considering this path?
I think that the audition process should be approached just like any other. The biggest thing, what I learned, I took a lot of failed auditions. And I think, you know, the kind of thing that I didn't do enough of early on was record myself. You know, when you commit to preparation for an audition, I think the number one important thing, as much as we don't want to do it sometimes because it's demoralizing, but record yourself, you know, record every bit and be your toughest critic. Because I had a friend once that told me, you know, it's super simple. All you have to do to win an audition is to play in time, play in tune with a good sound.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Cool. And to play every note in tune, to have a great sound, play musically and play in time. I mean, that's obviously a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think that really stuck with me because, you know, I said, wait, that note is not in tune, you know, and I just really needed to work. And that time is not exactly right. And so being super honest with yourself and record and, you know, find inspiration. I mean, listen to music and keep yourself motivated, because being in a practice room can just be mind numbing, you know, in a negative way. If you don't remember why you're doing it, what you want to sound like and what your goals are, you know?
Yeah.
So listen and record basically is my advice.
Perfect. And I love how your friend's advice, she makes it sound easier than we all know it to be.
Right.
But then add in pressure of the live audition. And a lot of that goes right out the window when you're nervous.
Absolutely. And nerves are real. And I mean, nerves still, you know, exist with me today. I mean, I think that the more prepared you are, the less nervous you are. And I heard this awesome analogy a couple of days ago. I mean, everybody right now is doing these live things with interviews and stuff. And so I've been having so much fun listening. And a friend of mine that I met in Dallas, he plays French horn. His name is David Cooper. He was doing an interview with Jennifer Gunn of the Chicago Symphony. And it was such a great interview. And he is a very fun guy. I mean, every time I would watch him on stage, he would just be like lit up with a big smile on his face. He was just so happy to be playing and on stage. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen anyone like openly smile like and be super happy while on stage playing a concert like that. Because usually people are kind of like, you know, in the zone, or they're, you know, focused on what they're doing or whatever. But he is like something different. Anyway, so he would say, like, when he's getting ready for a big horn solo, like, it's like you go up into a roller coaster and you're going up slowly, and like your time's coming and your nerves and your stomach is turning, your heart's racing. And he described it as, and then you have to make a decision when you like go over the top. Are you going to close your eyes and like, you know, go into a little hole? That's absolutely what I do. Or are you going to like put your hands up and just be so excited and just go for the ride?
Oh,
and
I
was
love
like,
it.
oh my God, that's so amazing. That's not where I'm at right now. But I just think that's such a great feeling. It's like, you know, this should be fun. And it's only fun if you put in the time, though. You know, it's only fun if you're not so scared. I mean, you have to trust your preparation. And I think the more confident you are in that, the more exciting it can be. So I'm going to definitely try and remember that next time I have a high pressure situation. Next time I play Stars and Stripes.
In front of thousands of people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. I love that analogy. I just picture this little boy or little girl in the front row of the roller coaster ride with their hands like up towards the sky, big eyes, and just embracing that fall. you know,
Uh-huh.
and there's so much excitement there and pure bliss and just going with it and letting it happen rather than fighting it.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
cool.
So fun.
I love it. Cool. So do you have a last shout out or last sentiments that you would like to share? I do this little last question just because I feel like guests are always like, wait, I wanted to say one more thing. So is there anything that you would like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I think that, we talked a little bit about what encouraged you to audition for the bands. And after being here for 7 years, one of the biggest and most humbling things is to just discover the power of what we're doing here. And my first couple of years here were pretty difficult. I was playing out in the rain and the cold, and I was like, what are we doing? We had gloves, and it was so hard to play my instrument. And I got into this job and I said, I just don't know if this is what I thought it was going to be. And, it was very humbling because I had to really face a lot of hard questions. And, the more I was here and the more jobs that I did, I sort of started to really feel the sense of what the Army calls selfless service. And I definitely let go of some of the guilty feelings that I had when people would thank me for my service, because I would think, oh gosh, I'm not out there fighting a war in Afghanistan. It just felt like I wasn't providing the same kind of service. And I'm not. But what we're doing through music and really understanding what it is that we're providing. When I'm doing a ceremony in Arlington Cemetery, thinking about the fact that I'm playing these hymns for people who lost a loved one, and when they hear America the Beautiful and the flags being folded, it's something that can't be done through a recording, and certainly not through a silence. And I think that once we provide music so that they can put that with their emotion, whether it's pride or grief or, whatever it is that they're feeling, I think that it's so impactful. And I think that when I remember why we're out there, it puts a whole new perspective what selfless service is and what music can provide in the Army. There's no way to describe that to people that, are out of music school and are wondering what they can do other than saying, this is a really great opportunity. Whether you're in a band in DC or the other military bands, they all do, similar things. It's a really great way to use music and use your skill to provide that service. So I think that anyone who is wondering if this is something that they can do, it takes the pressure off of you. You know what I mean? Like you're on stage and you're playing this great Mahler symphony, and that's really great. But then when you're out there and you're playing something so simple like America the Beautiful, the impact, the lifelong impact that has on that family is something really special.
So something that's bigger than yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I love that. Americans, I think, are notorious for being patriotic. And, in ceremonies like that, and you get to offer this beautiful gift of music to them, you're right. It stays with them, I'm sure. And that is a very honorable service that you are providing and that all military bands are providing. And we do thank you for your time and dedication to our country because, we don't even know the half of what you guys do for our nation. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, thanks. It's a great job. And I think that, hopefully more people can be interested in it. Because I think a lot of people, just like you and I, there's such an unknown factor to it. And so I'm so thankful that you're doing this series. I think that it's great. It's so nice to hear other people's perspective too.
Yeah, very well said. Cool. So we do this fun little segment at the end of the show called Pics. Do you have a pick for the listener today?
I would like to share kind of what I've been reading, I guess, because I've actually unexpectedly saw that it turned into a television show, which I've had so much fun watching. So a friend of mine recommended this book to me because she actually grew up in this town that this author's from. It's called Little Fires Everywhere. I don't know. Have you heard of the show?
I have.
Yeah. So I read the book about 6 months ago and I thought it was so great. Little Fires Everywhere. And I discovered that she had read or wrote a book before that. And it was called Everything I Never Told You. And these books, I absolutely devoured them in days. And they are excellent. I mean, what I loved about them is that she takes a situation and is able to express each character's point of view in a way that you really you can't even pick a side, because you're like, because all these crazy human things are happening, all these conflicts and people's point of view based on culture or race or socioeconomic, all the different things. And it's amazing how she's able to do that. And then watching the show with Kerry Washington and Reese Witherspoon has been so fun. But it's like, I'm sitting there with my husband because he also read the books and we're watching the show, and he's like, that wasn't in the book, or that wasn't in the book. Yeah, it wasn't like that in the book. I'm like, I know it wasn't like that in the book. But it's been fun to watch it. So, this time is a really interesting time that we have, and we try and, have different projects and watch shows. And it's kind of a nice time to do that. So yeah, we like to read and spend time doing stuff that we're normally too busy to do. So,
and lots of puzzles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've done puzzles. I've taken my dog on so many walks. She's going to be so disappointed whenever I go back to work. Whenever I leave the house, she's going to be like, where are you going? I enjoyed my life before. But fun fact is my sweet dog turns 5 today.
Oh,
it's her birthday. And so we've loved having her in our life. She's been so great. And, so we're going to celebrate her birthday today.
Aw, it's Piper, right?
Yeah, Piper.
Oh, happy birthday, Piper.
Yeah, she's the best.
I know you love that dog.
I do. Pretty much my social media is my dog, and that's about it.
That's okay. I relate. My social media are my 2 cats, and they're my world. So there you go.
Exactly. She's the best. She's the best.
Oh, thanks for the book recommendation.
Yeah, it's a fun one, and it's an easy read. It's a fun one.
Yeah. Well, my pick is less fun, but it is a nifty, handy tool that I love to use, and it's been on my mind just because, job applications galore have been a thing for me this past year. So it's a website called smallpdf.com, and it can basically do anything PDF that you want. It can convert from like Excel, JPEG, Docs to PDF. You can do like e-sign. You can lock it, unlock it. I didn't even know you could split a PDF, but you can split a PDF. It's phenomenal. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I recommend smallpdf.com.
Small PDF. Awesome. We always need new stuff like that. I mean, there's new stuff all the time.
Right? Well, Sonia, thank you so much for your time, talents, and energy. And I just so appreciate you being willing to offer us this advice and letting us take a look into your career. I know there's so many gold nuggets for listeners out there, and I've learned a lot, and I know they will too.
Thanks, Heidi. Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to your future podcasts.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye. Today's sponsor is brought to you by J&K Productions. Did you know that not only are they a production company for podcasts, but they are a recording company for musicians? Any musical recording needs that you may have, J&K Productions can fulfill that need. They have all the necessary equipment and expertise to record your next flute recording for college or graduate auditions, competitions, summer festivals, or a flute album. J&K Productions can record any setup imaginable, from solo flute, small chamber, flute and piano, and much more. Consider J&K Productions for your next recording project. Contact them at jkproductions.media. Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. For more information, please visit HeidiKBegay.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review in the iTunes store. Let's talk about flute.